basically, I'm really encouraged to read this because Tom Blythe is going to be in it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my January wrap-up / my February TBR. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So starting with my January wrap-up, I only read, I say only, 3 books in the month of January. The first book that I read was on a Kindle, second on a Kindle, and then the third book that I read was on paperback. So the first book that I read was Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage, which is part of the not Chestnut Springs. It's part of the, oh my god, what's that? 2 seconds. I had to check my bookshelf because I have the other 2 books physical. But yes, so it's part of the Rebel Blue Ranch series, which is currently on their 3rd book, which is Lost and Lassoed. I know the 4th one, and I think it might be the final one, is coming out shortly. So I gave Lost and Lassoed a big old 5-star because if there's one thing you need to know about me, it's that I am the biggest cowboy romance girly through and through. There was something about the chemistry between our main characters, Gus and Teddy, that just gave me the same kind of serotonin boost that Heartless with Cade and Willa by Elsie Silver gave me. Like I said, I gave that one a 5 stars. So if you are looking for a cowboy romance series and you haven't read the Rebel Blue Ranch series yet, definitely read this one. And I genuinely think my ratings have just gone up and up from like the first book to now the 3rd. So yeah. The second book that I read on my Kindle is my book club's January read, and that was Rebecca Yarros's The Things We Leave Unfinished. So obviously everybody is talking about a completely different Rebecca Yarros book at the moment. I was reading one of her romances and I didn't realize that she was initially, and at the moment predominantly I suppose, a romance author. And then I think the Fourth Wing series is like her first venture out of that kind of genre. The Things We Leave Unfinished has 2 timelines. One is based in World War II England and one is present day in Colorado. These timelines intertwine in a sense that the present day is the granddaughter of the person who we are dealing with in the historical romance side. So I didn't know how I would feel about this just because I'm not really a historical romance girly. It's not really my vibe at the moment. I mean, I definitely was because I loved Nicholas Sparks' books, etc., and a lot of them had historical aspects with it. But yeah, I read this and this was quite a chunky book. It was like nearly 450 pages, I believe. And you know what? I actually really enjoyed it. And the plot twist at the end, I just didn't see coming, and it actually broke my heart. I was crying, and I gave that one 3.75 stars. And then the last book that I read in January, and the only physical book that I read in January, was Akatar by Sarah J. Maas. I am clearly very, very, very late to this bandwagon. I just didn't feel the need to pick it up until recently, and I gave that one a 3.75 stars as well. And before you guys come for me with your pitchforks, etc., I always find that the first book in any series may be a fantasy, romantasy, thriller, romance, whatever kind of genre. The first book often has to sacrifice a lot of its quality for the sake of world building and putting in that information without kind of giving you too chunky of a book to start with because it might put people off. I completely understand that, and I will certainly be reading along, and I'm very excited to start reading Akamov, hopefully as well, very soon. And my friends have said it is literally just uphill from here. I really enjoyed the world that it's built so far. I also have this feeling where I don't think I'm going to be a Feyre girl. I found Feyre very annoying, not to the sense that like, oh, I can't read this book. I think just like as a person, she was like kind of annoying to me, but I'm here for everything else about it. So those were the 3 books that I read in January, and now we're moving on to February. So in terms of my February TBR, I do have my leftovers from the 10 books that I chose in January, and I'm already reading, I think, 2 from that list. So I'm already reading Blue Sisters because that's my book club's February book. I'm already reading Holding the Reins for another YouTube video where I just read romance books for a week. There's about 7 left on there, right? And then out of those 7, I actually already finished another one, which will be spoken about later on at the end when we do my February TBR in due course. So technically I have space for 4 more to round up to my 10. Now, I feel like 4 books to my TBR is like a really good middle ground, because I do want to keep the books that are still left on that TBR, and I don't want to overwhelm myself with a really big immediate TBR. So we are going to keep those books, and I'm going to run through the leftovers that will be kind of rolled over to February, but I'm also going to do 4 to 5 TBR prompt jar picks for February, and then that also will allow me to just finish the 2 books that I'm reading at the moment already, plus I'm a mood reader. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go get my prompt jar and we'll get into it. So here she is. We're gonna start with taking out the 4 to 5. I think I'm gonna do 5 prompts, and then after that I will grab the books that I think follow those prompts, and then I'll go through those plus my leftover from January, which makes my February TBR. So let's go. This is actually going to be my new thing. It is the bookmark mic. Let's pick prompt number 1. Adapted as a TV show or movie, a book with a person on the cover, a book published after 2015, and our final February prompt. So we're going to repick, and it says book by your favorite author. Okay, I am very excited about that. So let me grab some books and get back to you guys. So we've got a lot of books here. That's like double stacked on these last 2, and the same with these. So let's have a look. Let's get into it. But instead we're doing a hyped book, which, you know what, there's plenty around here. We now have the 5 books that I picked up for the prompts that I chose. The first prompt, because I did change it, is now a hyped book, and for that I chose Sarah J. Maas' Akamov, A Court of Mist and Fury. This is book 2 in the ACOTAR series, and let me just tell you how everybody's like, this is the one that's going to get you going, this is where it all starts. So let's see what you guys have to say. I'm not going to read the blurb of this one just because I kind of want to go into it blind, so there's nothing else to say. The second prompt is a book that has a TV or movie adaptation, and for that I think is one that is long overdue and has been sat on my shelf for far too long. That is Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. I think now more than ever it's really important to read this. I started watching a TV series a few years ago when it first came out, and I just found it really difficult, but it's because it was so uncomfortably, like, it was dystopian, but also, is it? I think especially with all the news of, you know, recent news of our friends from across the pond having certain books banned, including this one, I think if you are able to have access to this book, I think it's really important to consider reading it. Prompt number 3, a book with a person at the front. We have Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang. This is arguably one of the most beautiful books I've got on my shelf. Listen to this. So this is a really interesting book because it has really strong social commentary on the societal pressures on women to look a certain way. There's this whole conversation on the standards that women are expected to meet, and arguably these are unachievable standards, and at what cost do women allow these pressures to push them to do whatever it is. So this, I think, will be very, very interesting to read. Okay, next up we have a book that was published after 2015. We have Training the Heart by Paisley Hope, which is book 2 in the Silver Pine series. This was published, I believe, last year. Yes, it was published in 2024. And because I'm reading book 1 right now, I think it'll be just a good way to segue into book number 2 in this series. And I believe this is the latest one that they've got out so far. So this follows the middle child of the Ashby family, i.e. the youngest brother, because it's an older brother, the middle child is a brother, and then they have a younger sister. And he's like this broody, grumpy, oh, like the world is literally resting on my shoulders, I've got to look after the family ranch, blah 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 blah, all this responsibility. And then they meet the female main character, who, she's a racehorse trainer, and I think it's a little bit like forced proximity, and he's just super grumpy and she has to really work to peel his layers, so to speak. So yes. And then the 5th and final prompt is a book by your favorite author. I have plenty of favorite authors, but for this particular one, I really want to read the only one of hers that I haven't read yet before her latest release comes out, hopefully very soon. But it is You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry. I am a huge Emily Henry fan. There is nothing that she could write that I would not take the time out to read. It could be her grocery list, anything. I will read anything that woman writes. This is the last book that I haven't actually read yet in that series, which is crazy because this is her first book. So yeah, I've read everything until Funny Story, but this one I haven't yet. And now I'm even more encouraged to... Why are people just coming in? Oh my god. Let me just stay here for a minute. Basically, I'm really encouraged to read this because Tom Blythe is going to be in it. So this follows Poppy and Alex. It's a friends to lovers trope, I'm pretty sure. They go on this vacation every year and they kind of wingman each other, but then something happens. I've heard a lot of people say that it was like something stupid as well, but something happens which causes them to kind of like separate, and then I guess it's a story of how they kind of try and get back together as friends, which then leads to something more. So yeah. So from those 5 prompts, we have A Court of Mist and Fury, The Handmaid's Tale, Natural Beauty, Training the Heart, and You and Me on Vacation. And then as for the books that I have left over from my January TBR, we have Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder, we have The Trunk, we have The Virgin Suicides, we have Daddy by Emma Cline, we have All the Lovers in the Night, and Abby Jimenez, Your Street. So those make up for my February TBR. Like I said, I'm already reading 2 books at the moment, plus I've already finished one. So yeah, hopefully that will get into it. So those are the books that I will be picking from in February. I'm likely not going to be reading all of them just because it is what it is. I like to read when I want to, and I don't want to just do it as a numbers game. But yeah, we've got some really fun titles there. So I am truly very excited, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye!